Good morning. In this video I'll be reviewing the Nikon Z5 and my experiences with it for wildlife photography. I'll also be showing you examples of what this camera is capable of when you're out there in the woods. I'll be going over things like my good shots, my bad shots, the decent shots that I've taken with this camera, as well as going over the gear setup that I use out in the woods, how easy it is to carry this thing around out there and set it up and break it down. So let's go ahead and hop into Adobe Lightroom here and we'll start going over some of these photos. So here's an example of a properly exposed and a properly focused shot I took with the Nikon Z5. This was taken on a 300mm focal length with a AFP 70 to 300mm lens at f5.6 at 1/125th of a second, ISO 1000. As you can see straight out of the camera, it's sharp. Even at ISO 1000 there's a little bit of grain, but it's really completely manageable. The dynamic range is pretty good, where you get some nice easy blacks in the background, good shadows, and great highlights if you properly exposed. I believe my focus point was directly on the deer's nose, and as you could see, that is tack sharp. I have no issues whatsoever. I don't believe I had the VR enabled on the lens itself, but I did have the in-body stabilization enabled on the Z5, which is a wonderful thing to have. Even when on a tripod, the in-body stabilization doesn't seem to cause any problems, kind of like how the older Nikon lenses with VR would have some issues as far as if you had VR on with a tripod, it could almost make your image a little blurry because of how the VR worked. I haven't seen that problem with the IBS. As you can see, it's pretty much tack sharp all around, right on the focus point, even as the lens is wide open at 5.6 at 300mm. This is a shot where I had the IBS off. This is also at 300mm at 5.6, 1/200th of a second at ISO 1000. It was on a brighter day only because it snowed out the night before, so the light was a lot more intense. However, you could see it's a little blurry. My focus point was right on the deer's nose or right by his face. In this general area, that's the center of the frame. And you could see it's not as sharp as I would like it to be. It's a little soft. Now this could be a focusing issue. This could also be an issue with the fact that I had IBS off. I was still on a tripod, but it could have been user error. It was very cold, and my hands may have been shaking a little bit, or a little not as dexterous as I would like them to be. So the fur is not as sharp and crisp as I would like it to be. I could probably bring it up in Lightroom with the detail panel and bring the sharpening up to around 90, and then maybe bring the radius to 2, bring my masking up a little bit. I could probably save it a little bit, get it a little bit sharper, but if you're going to be printing this photo, it would be just a little bit softer than I would like it to be. Decent shot, not as focused and sharp as I would like it. So this was at f6.3 at 300mm, so I dropped down a stop on the aperture. It was at ISO 1250, so the ISO is actually increased, and the shutter speed was 1/200th of a second. So as you can see, it's a little underexposed and a little dark, but the focus is there. It's pretty much on point and sharp. And what I like about the raw files that come out of this camera is the dynamic range is great, where I could bring that up and bring it up almost 2 full stops. I could bring up that exposure, and you still don't see any kind of artifacting, or you don't see any kind of detail loss. A little bit of grain because of the high ISO, but overall, with a little more editing, this would work out just perfectly. So even if you're shooting a little bit underexposed with your wildlife photos out there, you're still going to have a lot of room to work with if you're shooting in RAW. So this is my basic setup while I'm out there. I have my AFP 70 to 300mm lens. It's attached to the Nikon FTZ adapter. I haven't had any issues with focus or with focus speed or responsiveness, whatever it may be, as far as the FTZ adapter goes. It's worked extremely well with both the AFP and AFS lenses I've used on it. As far as the lens itself, it's not that heavy. It works out very well for moving around the woods. I wish I had a little bit more focal length to get a little closer to the stuff that I'm shooting, but you can make 300mm work for you if you're patient and you sit there and you don't move around too much. Animals will come close enough eventually as long as you scout them out. I have the camera equipped to a newer tripod. It's a carbon fiber tripod. It's 66 inches high if you need it. The legs, the reason I really like that tripod, it's the N55C model. The reason I really like that tripod is it has a really easy way of adjustment. You don't have to use thumb screws or those little tacks or anything that make it really difficult. See, this is just a photo of an antler I found at a shed, and you could see the tripod. I'm holding it over my shoulder with the camera still attached. That's kind of how I walk around with it. It's not uncomfortable whatsoever. It's pretty easy and pretty light. It does have a monopod feature if you want to detach and just use it as a monopod. And what I like about shooting in the cold is that monopod handle is actually foam on the outside of the carbon fiber. So when it's freezing cold outside and you don't feel like hanging onto a carbon fiber pole with bare hands and freezing your fingers, you can hold onto the foam piece and it makes it a lot easier. If you look at the legs right around here, that's the locking mechanism. It's literally you just turn it a little bit to the side and it will drop the leg or let you retract it, and you turn it a little bit back and it will go ahead and let you lock it in. You don't have to crank it down, you don't have to muscle it. It's very, very easy to open and close, but it's strong enough where it's not going to open and close by itself, and you're not going to have to worry about anything falling down. This crank here is for the main shaft of the tripod, and it does a really good job of just holding the camera there and making small adjustments. It's silent. It's really great if you're doing wildlife and you're sitting inside a blind and you need to be quiet. It's very, very quiet. There's no scraping noise, there's no cranking noise, there's no anything that would alert any animals that may be close to you if you had to make a quick adjustment on the tripod. It does come with a ball head. That ball head is really nice. It has a simple locking mechanism right there. Make it lock or loose. It has full range of motion as well. You can't see it here, but there's a cutout so you could turn the camera to portrait mode if you really wanted to, turn it up and down. I don't use that much for my wildlife shots, but you could do it if you choose to. I hope you guys got a good eye for what you can expect out of using this camera in the wild. This is the actual lens I'm using. It's the AFP 70-300mm Nikon lens. Great lens for starting out, not too expensive. You can get one refurbished for about $600. If you want it new, I think it's around $800. It's a good lens to get into if you're going full frame. You need VR and you need that extra 300mm focal length. Not only that, as you saw from the pictures here, it's incredibly sharp, so I highly recommend it. If you have any questions, if you have any issues, if you're thinking about getting the Z5 and you want to see some more examples, go ahead and reach out to me, let me know. I'll give you some raw file to work with so you can see how you like it. And if you need any other information based on your decision around getting the Nikon Z5, or you have any other general questions about wildlife photography, I'm here. Otherwise, thanks very much for stopping in. I really appreciate you watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped you. I'll see you on the next one.